That was The Mighty Fall with Couldn't Get Ahead, the genius of Marky Smith, the lyrical wonderment that entranced us as 15-year-olds. I'm Nicky from Manic Street Preachers.
And I'm JD Bradfield from the Manic Street Preachers. We're sitting in for Iggy because we're performing for Six Music as part of BBC Music's biggest weekend. We're playing in Belfast, but it's taking place in Coventry, Perth and Swansea too, May 25th to 28th. Tickets are on sale soon. Now, the next track we're going to play is off the album Scared to Dance by the Skids. This is one of the songs I learned to play guitar to back in the kind of mid-80s. This is called Of One Skin. That was the Skids, Of One Skin, one of my choices.
Coming up next, we have Beautifully Unconventional by Wolf Alice. They supported us on a tour, maybe 5 years. I got to say, they're one of the best bands we've ever played with. They really are. They're so tight together as a unit. This record is so sparse and amazing, and the lyrics fantastic. And they are the hope of the future.
The last track you heard there was Prisoner by Ryan Adams, the title track of his album from last year. I played that album endlessly from start to finish. Some people try to recapture the spirit of Johnny Marr on the guitar. I think that track does it in a way that nobody else has ever done before.
Next up, we have, I think it's called the Black Eagle. I'm not going to say the French. James, can you say?
Les Galnois d'Adi.
James has got a French wife, so it comes naturally to him.
I don't think she would have really been proud of my pronunciation.
And I said this was by Barbara, but James's mother-in-law, who is French, corrected me and said it's Barbara. I just came across this track by accident. It's truly stunning. I can't speak French, I don't really understand it, but it just glides off into a territory that I can get nowhere near to. It's just a work of fantasy and beauty.
Un beau jour, ou peut-être une nuit.
You just heard Sea Calls Me Home by Julia Holter, another record from the last 2 years or so, which have really captured me. And actually, the way she seems to write about different people and different characters in her songs really helped me with writing one of the tunes on our new album.
Next up, we have SOS by Abba. If there's one thing I miss, I guess, about modern pop culture is the kind of icy fragility and sheer melancholia of a pop band like Abba. It feels, maybe First Aid Kit get there now and again, but there's something about the emptiness of Abba, which to think how popular they were, and listen to the greatest hits from my mum and dad and my brother when we were in the 70s, just some kind of melancholic communion. And SOS sums that up as much as any of their records.
That was Pain by The War on Drugs, a track which makes me feel like this solace in the emptiness and the knowing that everything is pointless. It's quite a trick to pull off when you can actually communicate some kind of positive notion about realising such things.
And now it's time for the Six Music News.
Hello, I'm JD Bradfield from the Manic Street Preachers.
And I'm Nicky and that was Santa Gold with Les Artistes, which is just a record from a different universe, really. I remember the first time I heard it and saw the video, and it just absolutely blew me away. I don't think there's been another record that sounds like it since, and it fills me with some kind of cold-hearted joy. Whenever I put it on, not that I'm prone to dancing, but it nearly gets me to dance.
This next track is Push by The Cure. It's off the album The Head on the Door, which I just absolutely just wore out my copy of it in the 80s. When it came out, and this track particularly, was it the 80s?
Well, I remember banging on your door at 20 Sir Ivors Road. It was in the 80s.
I remember I used to just eardrum to this song because the track goes on for ages without any vocals coming in, and the drumming on it was just really cool. And once I was in my front room and I was just playing it over and over again, I was just eardrumming for ages. Then I realised our old bass player, Flicker, had been looking at me through the front window, just watching me eardrum for about 10 minutes. And I went crackers on him because I felt so humiliated that I'd been caught eardrumming, and I was so uninhibited, kind of like in my joy of just trying to be a drummer to this track. So that's my memory of this Push by The Cure.
And that was Fantastic Voyage by Bowie Off the Lodger, kind of underrated, slightly unloved album, but one of my favourites. The lyrics on that track really get to me, you know, the cultural void that no one's ever going to fill, and is kind of underrated as a lyricist, I think. And dignity is valuable, but our lives are valuable too. Just masterpiece.
So now we're going into Half Past France by John Cale. It's off the album Paris 1919, which is always in my top 5 albums of all time. I've met John a couple of times and worked with him a couple of times, and he's been really cool with me, mostly. This track is kind of one of my just favourite live music memories. John was playing at the Coal Exchange in Cardiff some years back now, and he played the whole of Paris 1919. And when he played this song, Half Past France, it was one of the only times I've seen like a band nearly levitate above the stage. They really felt as if they transcended the moment. They transcended the music, transcended the history of it, everything. And it's just one of my favourite live music memories. So Half Past France by John Cale.
That was Michael Kiwanuka with Love and Hate, one of my favourite albums of the last few years. It's a real kind of Marvin Gaye majesty to the way he sings, and his band are really great. I just love the way he looks. And the lyrics are really deep as well. The whole album is fused with, just a view of the world. I'm just a huge fan.
This next track is called Running Out of Love by the Radio Department. I kind of link music in with different parts of my life or memory these days, and I only passed my driving test about 2 years ago, and this song is something that kept me calm while I was a novice driver out there, trying not to slip into road rage, trying not to kind of like go past speed limits, etc. And this song really kept me grounded as a new driver on the road out there. So this is Running Out of Love by the Radio Department. That was the Radio Department with Running Out of Love.
And now coming up, Back From Somewhere by Husker Du. Just takes me back to my university days in Swansea. I had this warehouse and other stories on cassette, and Grant Hart and Bob Mould were so competitive as songwriters. They seemed to feed off each other, and obviously Grant Hart passed away last year. Another one of our kind of touchstones from our youth that we admired and loved disappeared, but the kind of ragged glory of Grant Hart, it's all in this track, Back From Somewhere. Hello, I'm Nicky Wire from Manic Street Preachers.
And I'm JD Bradfield from Manic Street Preachers. We're sitting in for Iggy Pop. You just heard the man himself and Kay Pearson singing Candy, which was from the album Brick by Brick, which I think we all owned a copy of when it came out. Yeah. I think this is one of those songs which kind of got us to love and realise how powerful duets could be. I mean, we've done lots of duets, songs like Little Baby Nothing, Your Love Alone. And I really do think that us doing so many duets came from this song to a certain degree.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful song. It's got narration in it. It's got soaring voices in it. It's got the gravitas of the Igmeister, just kind of just going underneath Kate Pearson and just pinning the harmony down. It's just beautiful. It really is a really underrated Iggy Pop moment.
Makes us want to write a song for Kate Pearson, actually.
It does, yeah.
If you're out there, Kate, get in touch. And coming up next, we have Surfer Blood, Floating Vibes. It's just an album I really love. It's like Pavement mixed with McCarthy or something. Just the sounds and the voices, really otherworldly. And it's a record I've played over and over and over, which just came out of nowhere, to be honest. It's not like I know a huge amount about the band or anything, but just revel in the glory of Floating Vibes.
That was Learned It by Girls Against Boys, which was a song that kind of I kept playing on repeats around about the Holy Bible era, when we were perhaps partway through recording the Holy Bible.
I remember it well.
Yes, and
to my pain.
And this, bizarrely, was one of my wake-up songs every morning for about 2 months. I'd been to see Girls Against Boys at the Garage on a Highbury corner, and Scott McLeod, the singer, was such a malevolent presence on stage. There was no joy or kind of communal communication in him as a frontman. I was just really impressed with them as a band, and especially him. So I went and bought a couple of their records, and this is a song that I really latched onto. And I think they had a small bearing in some of the music I wrote for the Holy Bible, so it's kind of a good memory for me.
And coming up next, we have Limelight by the one and only Rush. I don't think any band from the age of maybe 12 to 14 had a bigger influence on me. You know, it was passed on to me by my brother, and Moving Pictures as an album kind of fused prog, rock and new wave. Is one of the ultimate records ever made, with one of Alex Lifeson's most stunning guitar solos, phenomenal lyrics by Neil Peart, and the genius of Geddy Lee on bass. Limelight by Rush.
That was Man with Back into the Future. So we got another Welsh band obsessed with the word future. My friend Nicky here. If you count how many times he's used the word future in titles and lyrics, it definitely goes into the tens, I think. I go back constantly and listen to a lot of Man. They were a Welsh band, sometimes a bit trad, sometimes quite prog, but they always sounded like themselves. They never sounded like they were trying to be anybody else. They're a very strange band, but a very underrated band. If you go back and listen to them, I recommend the album The Welsh Connection. But they're a cool band.
And coming up next, we have Rarebit by Troika. Jim's bought me this album, I think it was for Christmas on my birthday, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Probably took me a year to play because I just couldn't get my head around it. But I do have a kind of love of really atonal, obscure jazz. And this one really nails it. And I wanted to use this as an intro for us coming on stage, but James and Sean thought it was maybe too much hard work involved to get the crowd going. But it's just a really interesting record played by brilliant musicians.
That was The Other Window by Wire off the album 154. For me, is their best album. I absolutely love this track when I bought this record when I was about 15, 16, I think. And it's strange, we've been watching a German gig of Wire on YouTube in the studio whilst we've been making this record. It just makes you realise that they were, apart from just being a very art kind of punk rock band, I'm sure they were bridal at that description, but they were just really tight and just really cool. I sent Wire a postcard once because they were doing a kind of reformation gig at the ICA in the 80s. I got a postcard back from them, which was really nice. And then jump on another 10 or 12 years and I switch on the radio and one of Wire was slagging us off on the round table. So such is life. But
we kind of admire bands that hate us that we love.
Exactly. Kind of for me to like a band,
there's a lot of them.
I don't need them to like me back, which is pretty good, because it's not going to happen that much anyway. So there you go. And now it's time for the Six Music News. Hello, I'm the rebranded J.D. Bradfield from the MSPpedia.
I'm Nicky, and we're sitting in for Iggy because we're performing for Six Music as part of BBC Music's biggest weekend. We're playing in Belfast, but it's taking place in Coventry, Perth and Swansea too. May 25th to the 28th. Tickets are on sale soon. That was The Cribs, Men's Needs, one of the great singles, I think, of the noughties. Perhaps the noughties, yes. Just moves me. The bass, the drums. We played with them in Newcastle last year. We did a sort of gig in the middle of the city, which was amazing, and they were fantastic. And I really admire their dedication to the cause. I still think they feel it, and I still think they mean it.
This next track is by a band called White Hills. I always just have these little obsessions. I get obsessed with a band and then I buy every record of theirs until I decide I don't like them anymore. But that hasn't happened yet with White Hills because they've kind of built into this peak where I had quite a lot of krautrock influences. There were just a lot of stoner rock in there and a lot of art rock in there. But on their last record, they got David Wrench to produce some. The genius North Walian that he is, who seems to produce every good record that comes out these days.
Except ours.
Except ours, yeah. He's never decided to work with us.
And he likes Budgie.
And he likes Budgie. And we like Budgie. And so kind of he produced their last album and it's just amazing. He transformed the band and I loved them already anyway. It made them so powerful and just suddenly it just all makes complete sense. I just hope they do their next record with him. This is White Hills with No Will. That was No Will by White Hills.
And coming up next, we have Glen Campbell, Galveston, another genius of our age who has left us too soon. Again, there was probably sort of touchstone albums in our house in the 70s. Abba's greatest hits, Glen Campbell's greatest hits, John Denver, and Crystal Gale and Neil Diamond, and Simon and Garfunkel. And I loved all those records, Galveston in particular. My dad used to put it on all the time. Lots of fathers at that age like to think they were cowboys, I think, James, didn't they?
Yeah, especially my dad.
It's just such an amazing vocal. Just glides. When you're that effortless, you know you're really, really good.
First heard this track, Nautilus, by Anna Meredith, when it was on Six Music, and it's when Six Music were doing their festival from Glasgow, I believe. And I just became fascinated with this track because it just never stops moving. It's just pure forward motion. And I went straight out the next day and bought the album. And it just kind of helped unlock a couple of things inside me about just writing tunes for the new record. Not that any of our, songs sound anything like Anna Meredith, but sometimes is a roundabout way of getting somebody else's music to unlock something inside yourself. And I just absolutely just love this track. I don't think anybody else has made music like this.
Coming up next, we have Video Games by Lana Del Rey. It's one of those records that stops you dead in your tracks. I remember the first time I heard it, the lyrical flow, which is something I'm absolutely obsessed with, where words turn in on themselves and repeat themselves subtly and just take you in different directions without you even noticing. They almost kind of drug you. And the lyrical flow of this record, I've kind of riffed off it lyrically millions of times. I'll just sit in my bedroom, putting it on, just kind of examining the rhythm of it and the atmosphere it creates. There's not many records that do that for me, but it's just one of those moments that I can still remember when I heard it, and when I put it on, it still inspires me now. That was Lana Del Rey with Video Games. It's the last one from me. Hope you've enjoyed my mainly lyrically focused choices, and I will leave you to JD Bradfield to choose the final track.
So kind of the last track is a track that kind of myself, Wire, Sean and Richey would all agree on is a great song because we've all listened to this track quite a lot. It comes off the album This Nation's Saving Grace, produced by John Nicky, and of course by The Fall. So obviously there's a tinge of sadness of picking a Fall song now, but we've picked many Fall songs in our list on the years, and this one has always been one of the most powerful examples of what made The Fall and Mark E. Smith such powerful, kind of like a recording artist to listen to. For the man that wrote the best lists, for the man that wore the best jumpers, for the man that wrote some of the most original lyrics ever, this is Gut of the Quantifier by The Fall.